All right, let's jump right in. We've got these incredible, super powerful AI models, like Gemini, right? They know a ton about the world in general, but they know absolutely nothing about your world. Your company's internal documents, your specific research, your private data. And getting them to understand that stuff has been one of the biggest headaches for developers. Well, until now.
This is really the heart of the problem, isn't it? How do you take this massive model that's been trained on the public internet and safely, securely ground it in your private information so it can give you answers that are actually useful? For the longest time, the answer was, well, it was a huge pain. It meant you either had to live with the AI's limitations or give up for a massive engineering project. So, if you wanted to tackle this yourself, you'd have to build something called a Retrieval Augmented Generation system, or RAG for short. And let me tell you, it is a serious amount of work. You're talking about setting up vector databases, wrestling with the best way to chop up your files, picking and managing embedding models. It's this whole complicated system you have to build and then maintain, all before you can even start on the cool stuff.
But what if you could just skip all of that? What if that entire tangled mess of a pipeline was just handled for you, neatly packaged up and just ready to go? Okay, so let's properly unpack this grounding problem. For years, it's been a ton of manual work, a ton of complexity, and it's been a huge roadblock for so many developers. We're going to look at exactly why that is, and more importantly, what is so fundamentally changing right now.
And that brings us to Google's big solution, the file search tool that's built right into the Gemini API. The easiest way to think about this is as your own personal, fully managed, pre-built RAG system. It's designed to make that whole retrieval pipeline we just talked about disappear, so you can focus on building your app, not messing with the plumbing.
And let's just make sure we're on the same page with RAG, because it's the key concept here. All it really means is that before the AI gives you an answer, it first goes and retrieves the most relevant bits of info from your documents. Then, it uses that info to augment its own knowledge, which lets it generate a way, way better and more factually grounded response. It's like giving the AI a cheat sheet right before the test.
And this really shows you the before and after picture perfectly. On the left, you've got the old way. It's complicated, it's high maintenance, it's a huge engineering project. And on the right, with Gemini File Search, it's simple, it's integrated, and it's fully managed. You go from having to build the whole car yourself to just getting the keys.
So how does this managed service actually work under the hood? Let's walk through the journey, from the second you upload your file to the moment Gemini spits out a smart, grounded answer.
The whole experience for a developer is just incredibly smooth. First, you make what's called a FileSearchStore. Think of it as a bucket for your data. Then you upload your files. And here's the magic part. File search just takes over. It automatically does all the annoying stuff, the chunking, creating embeddings, indexing everything. After that, you just ask Gemini a question and point it to your store. That's literally it.
Okay, so it finds information, sure, but how does it pinpoint the exact right paragraphs from maybe thousands of pages of documents? It's not just doing a simple Control F, right?
Exactly. It uses this really powerful technique called semantic search. The best way to think about it is that keyword search matches words, but semantic search matches meaning. So if you ask a question about company earnings, it's smart enough to find a paragraph that talks about quarterly revenue and profit, even if the word earnings is nowhere to be found. It gets the concept. And the way it does this is just fascinating. It takes every little piece of your documents and turns it into a long string of numbers. That's called an embedding. This string of numbers is like a mathematical fingerprint for the meaning of that text. Your question gets turned into a fingerprint too. And then the system just looks for the document fingerprints that are the most mathematically similar to your question's fingerprint. It's a search for ideas, not just words.
Okay, so we get how it works. Now let's talk about the key features that really make this a total game changer for anyone building with AI. This is where that simple process turns into some seriously powerful capabilities. The benefits here are pretty incredible. First, the developer experience is just simple. The search itself is state-of-the-art, using the latest Gemini models. Oh, and this one is huge for building trust. It has built-in citations, so you can always see exactly where the AI got its information from. Plus, it supports a ton of different file formats, PDFs, Word docs, you name it. And it's built to scale with you. But honestly, beyond all the cool tech, Google has introduced a pricing model here that completely changes the economics of building these kinds of systems. Yep, you're seeing that right.
Zero, two of the biggest, most annoying ongoing costs of a typical RAG system, storing all that index data and generating embeddings every single time a user asks a question, are now completely free. This just blows the doors wide open for experimentation and for scaling up your projects. So here's the deal. You only pay once, right when you first upload and index your files. And the cost is a flat 15 cents for every million tokens, which are basically little pieces of words. This makes your costs super predictable and incredibly cheap, especially when you think about paying for all the separate parts of a system you'd host yourself. And this isn't just theory. Developers are already seeing massive results. Phaser Studio, for example, uses it for their AI game generation platform. A process that used to take them hours of manual work now happens in under 2 seconds. I mean, just think about that. That's a mind-blowing leap in efficiency. So with this amazing new tool in hand, what are developers actually building? Let's take a look at how this newfound power to ground AI and private data is actually being used out in the wild. Well, we're seeing some really cool patterns pop up. We're seeing intelligent support bots that can answer super specific questions from dense technical manuals. We're seeing internal company assistants that basically act as an expert on your entire corporate history, and even creative platforms that help people discover content in totally new ways. Basically, if your app's value comes from deep, specific knowledge, it just got a whole lot easier to build. And the whole thing is built to grow right along with you. You can start playing around for free with up to 1 gigabyte of storage, and as your ambitions grow, you can scale all the way up to 1 terabyte of indexed data, which is just a staggering amount of information. It really covers everyone, from a solo developer with a cool idea to a massive enterprise. When you boil it all down, this is what it's all about. File search transforms your private data from this static, dusty archive into an active, intelligent tool that Gemini can use to reason, to analyze, and to answer questions with a level of accuracy and relevance we just haven't seen before. So really, it leaves us with one last really exciting question. Every company, every developer, every person has this unique treasure trove of knowledge locked away in their documents. Now that you can plug it directly into one of the world's most powerful AIs, what knowledge will you unlock?